First, I want to read a very short thing, a fairy tale of sorts, which you can think of as a kind of intro in three voices. It is the prologue to my next book, which is going to be published this coming fall. It's a book of short fictions titled Pricksongs and Descants. And the story, which was written for that book, describes in some ways the aesthetic behind the collection, and its form, which is a kind of fairy tale, is meant to encourage a return to that kind of writing and also to introduce some of the longer fairy tales in the book. And it's called The Door. This was the hard truth. To be Jack become the giant, his own mansions routed by the child he was. Yes, he'd spilled his beans and climbed his own green stalk to the clouds and tipped old Humpty over, only to learn now much later that that was probably the way the old man in his wisdom had wanted it. He swung, chanting to himself to keep his stroke steady, and he dropped those tall, hard trees, but he was all too aware of what he was really doing, of what was happening up there or about to, and how the ogre in him wouldn't drop away and leave her free. And look, he was picking on the young trees today, too. He caught himself at that, my God. Was it envy? Was that all it was? Feeling sorry, old man, that all that joy and terror is over for you, never to rise again? Hell no. But no, it wasn't jealousy. She was his own blood, after all, and just a child. He swung, a sinew snapped, the tree leaned, crackled, toppled with a great wheeze and crash. He decided to chop it up into foot-length logs. And listen, he wished her the joy, yes he did, both of them for that matter, if not all the world. He had told her about it, he'd wanted her to love life, and that was part of it, a good part of it. Those frantic trips up and down his beanstem had taught him that much. But he liked to hear her laugh and watch her wonder with a smile, and, well, he hadn't said much about the terror. He saw the tree had held a nest. Its pale speckled eggs lay scattered, all broken but one. He stared at the unbroken egg. He removed his hat, wiped the sweat from the back of his neck. But what could he do about it? Nothing. And so he was afraid, for her, for himself, because he'd given her her view of the world, in fragments, of course, not really thinking it all out, she listening, he telling, and because of her gaiety and his love, his cowardly, lonely love, he'd left out the terror. He'd smelled the blood all right, but he'd called it essence. And when she encountered it, found herself alone and besieged, what then? He'd be part of it, that's what. Feared and hated. And he'd thought the old giant had lived in heaven, the poor bastard.